You are now listening to CTR Media Network.
The family. CTR Media Network. Yeah. Best in the biz. Yeah. Join the team. CTR is who we are, the media network, that's the best by far. Whether you listen at your home, at your job, in your car, come get the information that's needed above all. Never lasting, motivational podcasting, giving you the answers to the questions that you're asking. Serious talks and topics, how to come up and profit, how to better yourself, your health is here, we got it. Reaching 350 million, they tuning in. We in 50 different countries, we all can. And like-minded, find your purpose and your assignment. Come get your fix, your feel, your mental alignment. Get active and speak to the masses. Build your influence all levels and all classes. Now you know you can monetize and grow. CTR Media Network. Start the show. CTR Media Network.
Welcome to CTR Media Network TV. We are thrilled to welcome a true innovator and pioneer in the world of legal marketing, Dennis Meador, the founder of the Mean Media and the visionary behind the Legal Podcast Network. With over 25 years of experience, Dennis has been transforming how attorneys connect with their ideal clients. But what truly set Dennis apart is his entrepreneurial spirit. He started his first company at just 14 years old. And since then, he's dedicated his life to helping businesses and attorneys elevate their brands, attract high-value clients, and position themselves as local thought leaders. In 2024, Dennis launched the Legal Podcast Network, a groundbreaking platform that turns attorneys into authorities through the power of podcasting. His mission? To help law firms break away from the generic marketing and become go-to experts in their fields. So get ready. Dennis is here to share strategies, insight, and behind-the-scenes stories that will inspire not just attorneys, but entrepreneurs and connect creators every day to stand out, own their niche, and make a meaningful impact. So without further ado, let's welcome Dennis Meador to the show. And just like that, here he is.
I feel like I should be running through a tunnel or like a group of people like, let's go, let's do it, you know. That is quite the intro. I'm glad I hit tap for sound so I could hear your custom song into your custom intro for me. So thank you. I know they didn't write the song for me, but you know, it was nice. It was nice. So thank you very much for having me.
No, you are most welcome. I love speaking with different people within the podcasting industry, seeing how you guys and everyone else is, you know, their own spin on this industry. And you are tapping into a niche that is definitely a very niche category on the individuals that you help and being able to help them so profoundly with what you're doing with the Legal Podcast Network. So I'm happy to have you. But Dennis, you help attorneys evolve from traditional marketing to content-driven authority. So what made you realize that podcasting was the next frontier, and what made you decide to put attention or help the legal community?
So I've worked with lawyers for 22, 23 years of my almost 30-year career in marketing. And the way I got into podcasting was actually when I lived in Austin. I was able to go in and had a different lawyer agency at the time. And I was like, I want to make a podcast and let's just have fun with this. And I'm one of those people, I don't do things like, what do they say? There's no halfway crooks. Like there's no halfway entrepreneurs either, right? Like when you give an entrepreneur something, like they don't know to just be like, they don't just sit on their couch and do a podcast. So I got about a crew of 10 people, 3 or 4 cameras. We did on site. It was called ATXAF. Then we changed it to FML per Diem when the guy who was co-hosting with me wasn't on the show anymore. But with that show, what I did was I went on location. Like I said, we were shooting in 4K. This is 2019. Wow. So we had a 4K camera. We were shooting with 2 other cameras. So we had 3 cameramen, 2 sound men, my host, and all of this. So I go in, I do it. I don't monetize. I didn't do it to monetize. I did it to build something that I was excited about. And so in 3 months, I did about 60 episodes. We spent about $150,000 and we put it out there. And, obviously mid 2019 to late 2019, you're going to lose some steam in the next 6 months, right? So we kind of lost the steam off of that. But what I really learned through that is production quality can set people just miles apart. So I go into Austin and I'm just like, and let's be honest, I wasn't the only podcast about music and life and Austin, but I was the only one that was doing it at a high level, just with the equipment and with the different people, to where all of the, a lot of musicians, a lot of artists, a lot of, just local people, they were just like, man, like, who's spot is it Austin Chronicle doing this? Who's doing? I was like, no, this is me. And then when we would put it out, and it would be high quality, and we had people from like we had Ali Khan from the Food Network, Cheap Eats is his show. He lives in Austin now, so like we were kind of getting to that tier just in a few months of like the people that had transplanted to Austin from Hollywood. But because of just kind of fading that out, and the lesson I learned, like I said, production quality, I ended up moving away and ended up back in Tulsa. Went back a year later, and so sometimes you spend a lot of money on something, and most of our shows have anywhere from like 300 to 3,000, 4,000 views. It wasn't like, oh, I just set the world on fire. So you look back and you're like, okay, what did I gain out of this? What did I learn? I went back to Austin to take care of something, and I met with a friend of mine named Shaka, and him and his wife have a rap group in Austin called Riders Against the Storm, kind of like the old school 90s woke vibe, like early 90s woke vibe, Tribe Called Quest, all that fun stuff. And so that's kind of their vibe. I had him on the show, and when I came back, I had brunch with him, and he's like, oh, dude, come here. I want to show you something. I'm like, what's up? So go over, and he's like, you see this room? He's like, yeah. He's like, we're building it into a podcast studio and a recording studio. He's like, you showed us in this community, we don't have, us artists and musicians and things, we don't have to wait for, the Austin Chronicle to pick us up. We can actually create our own stuff. And what I've learned is when you create your own stuff, it often does better than traditional media outlets media. And so now there's a whole big like community center that's BIPOC focused that enables them to podcast and create music for free. And so I'm not saying I had everything to do with it, but I like to feel like I had one little part in it, if nothing else, to show my friend, hey, we don't have to sit around, let's do it ourselves. So that's kind of how I got into podcasting. And then with the Legal Podcast Network, I had an SEO agency for attorneys. I've worked with them for over 2 decades. My partner, when it was time to kind of renew our agreement, he bought me out. And so I just decided, like, I love podcasting. I think that is going to become more of a thing. I think it can be used to build authority marketing, which is really where what I work with are 1 to 10, so smaller law firms, which is really the only chance they have to compete against these people that buy every billboard, every TV ad in their town. I always say, if you can't outspend them, you have to outposition them. And so we work on their positioning in the market, who they are, who their ideal client is, and then we cultivate a content plan based off of that.
Genius, because, if their budget don't meet their needs, where you can definitely position yourself. And what I have found, just like you, is podcasting is one of those things that is, of course, trending right now, but it's one of those things that's here forever with this new transition into digital. So I do believe that what you started in Austin actually had that trickle effect, because they actually saw, like, wait a minute, Dennis doing this by himself. I'm thinking he coming behind from a bit like Chronicle newspaper, and you're doing it, and they saw that, and it inspired them to start what they're doing. So I do feel that you are a part of that, because you inspired them and you let them see something different that was working. So it doesn't matter if you only had 3,000 views. You
exactly no
you touched
exactly.
Like, it doesn't matter, because look what happened. So how has podcasting, because I know it changed the community, it changed you in some ways, but how has podcasting changed the way your clients attract and retain their clients over years? Like, does it actually help them to find their ideal client with podcasting?
Yeah. So what we do is we use question based because a lot of the LLMs, the GPTs out there is what most people would know them as, language learning models. They're very query based. And so if we can help our clients create query based, authentic content to themselves, then we can help them in many, many ways because we don't just do a podcast. We also do a YouTube show. We also do shorts and reels and audiograms and static ads. And then we take each podcast because it's a query based, 7 to 10 questions. We provide the host. We take each podcast and we can turn that into 2 to 3 pages of FAQ content for their website. We can place it on their form, or if they have a webmaster, their webmaster does it. So the good thing is it goes back to that old Gary V thing. All of us content marketers, we quote Gary V like it's Colossians, right? So, Gary V, I remember years ago, he's like, you shoot a video, then you take that video. And then that video, you make it into some shorter videos. And then you take those shorter videos, you take the transcript. He's got that high voice. I can't really do it, but you're with me. So, and he's just like chopping it up. And that like kind of sunk into my subconscious. And I said, attorneys' biggest problem is time. And so if I can find a solution and present something that takes little to no of their time, but looks as if they're a professional at doing it, I can put myself and a team in a position to be long-term successful. And that's really what I was trying to do, is just create a content machine. Podcasting is just a means to an end, but it is, like you said, it's here to stay. Gen Z and Alpha have 2 main sources that they trust. Now, I know one, which is TikTok, but the second one is podcasts. So if the next generation is consuming podcasts and we're consuming podcasts, where are podcasts going anytime soon? If A and Z are that's their main thing. Like, what I would say that's happening with podcasting is podcasting's been around, but podcasting was seen as a hobby or a niche. It wasn't really seen. I would say there's a renaissance of this like sort of B2B podcasting that is designed to create not just thought leadership, to have other lawyers respect me as a lawyer for what I think, but really to cultivate clients. And now we're coming to these attorneys and showing them this turnkey system that they can plug into, that we can create all of this content, all of these different things for them, and it just takes a minimal amount of time.
That's amazing, because one of the hardest things to get from being around lawyers is to get them to even do a podcast or do any type of content, period. Because number one, they're more focused on, arbitration, or if they're in court all the time, and then they're thinking, how am I going to have time? And then let's be real, they don't want to do it. They'll pay for it, but they don't want to do it. And so how can you get that down? And so you figure out that process. But with that being said, what would you say is one of the biggest branding mistakes you see that either entrepreneurs make or attorneys make today, that you feel that hold them back from actually doing the content, doing the podcast?
I think one of the biggest things with if we're talking about just purely, you threw that thing about doing the podcast on the end. So that's what's kind of throwing me off. So I see a podcast that doesn't have great content, or branding. So how do if I'm looking at a podcast, I don't see great branding, what is my suggestion? That's the question I'm taking away, correct? Okay. So I would say the first and foremost is, from the moment you start, everything you do should be as professional. Listen, you can go to there's logo contests. You could pay $200, $250. You could say, I want a logo for my podcast. It's called this. This is the vibe. This is what we do, blah, 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 blah. Maybe you're not a graphics person, but you can pay $250 and 300 people will send you a custom made logo. And then you can look at that through that and be like, oh, I like this one. You could send it back. You say, I really like this one, but can you make this, and this change? And then they'll make the change, and then they'll say, great, I'll take it. You award them. And now you've got a professional brand, with the whole brand package. done for $250. People think they got to go down to like Johnson and Jones branding agency in downtown, wherever they're at, and pay them 10 to 15,000, 25 to 50,000, whatever, for a brand package, when we have access to so much technology and so much intellectual energy across the world that you can come out of the box looking like you've been there for years. And so that would be the biggest thing. Is you look down, you look at their logo, it looks like they're buddy mated on his, Word Paint 98, and you're just like, what's going on here, guys? I think we just live in an age where baseline should look like professional, and then we grow from there.
You're right. We are living in an age where even our cell phones come with higher quality cameras. We can take better photos. And so you can't come out with anything in the now being mediocre. You just can't, because you will stick out like a sore thumb for a wrong reason. And so I agree with you that you have to put some effort into it now. And that's one of the branding mistakes that I see a lot of people make too, is not taking enough time to present themselves the right way. They want to rush. And some things you need to think through a little bit more and think about, this is your legacy. What are you building, and how you want people to identify you, and connect. But when I think about podcasts, and I want to know how you feel about this, how can a podcast in general help someone to go from unknown to the go-to person in their niche, even if they don't have a large audience yet?
Well, I think there's two ways. So one is, when you don't have a large audience, expose yourself to as many other audiences as possible. So we have our first two in-house podcasts that we're getting ready to launch, and remind me to share them with you. I think you'll get a kick out of them. They're kind of fun, because where I think, we'll get to that, but if we can talk about where I think podcasting is going, that's important. But yeah, go back, give me the question again, because I've done 3 podcasts today. I apologize. Can you give me that question just one more time so I can answer it correctly? Sure.
I wanted to know, like, how can podcasting help someone go from unknown to guesting on podcasts,
on podcasts that have a parallel audience to yours. That's the number one thing I would be doing. Is I would just be, I think we met through Podmatch. There's this thing called Podmatch, and there's more than one of these sort of like outlets, but I think I pay $70 a month, and I've been on like 30 podcasts in the last 2 months. So great investment. I mean, you got to put together a one sheet. You got to make, just like we talked about, you got to look professional. But I would say that that's the first thing. Like, hey, I'm getting ready to launch my podcast, or I just launched this podcast. This is what we do. And, that would be the first way to do it. I think the second way to do it would be, if you have the money and you have the time, or even if you don't quite have a ton of money, to just invest a little bit, I would be going on like Meta. And I would be identifying podcasts that have the same audience as mine. And then I would be throwing reels their way, content their way. So I know if they like Joe Bob's house, or whatever, they're going to like Diem's house or whatever, if we kind of have the same subject matter or the same sort of, audience. So that would be the two things. I would mirror audience and spend some money on Meta, even if it's just $10-15 a day, a few $100 a month. So you can start building some clout. Because here's what people do when they look at a podcast, and whether it's on YouTube, you can't really tell on Apple and things like that. So let's just use YouTube. Let's be honest, they look it up, they go to the page, and then they look, how many views? 13, 17, 42. You know what I mean? They're looking for that social proof. And so we have to do all we can to prime the pump, friends and families. Hey, watch this, be this, do this. So that's what I would suggest.
That's a great suggestion, because at the end of the day, visibility, you need more visibility. The same thing that you're creating, you need it yourself. And what I find that a lot of hosts get too comfortable behind the mic. They don't see the need to get from behind the mic and be the guest themselves. And I tell people that all the time. I say, you can't get so comfortable behind the mic if you really want to grow your show, that somebody else's show. Okay.
Yep.
And so I'm loving to see that you are a network owner, and here you are coming on another show showing that it's power in being a guest on other shows, getting that visibility, that
Absolutely.
brand recognition. And so you're setting a great example with that, because sometimes you can't get the CEO to come and speak none. You're like, I leave that to the other person.
Yeah, well, I mean, founder-led marketing is really what people are looking for now. They want to trust a face, not a logo. And so if you don't have founder-led marketing or C-suite-led marketing, you are putting your team at a disadvantage. No matter what you're doing, if it's marketing your podcast, or if you have, like a business, like with me, so I have 32 people on my team. And so, they see me out here doing this, and this inspires them to keep doing what they're doing, and they hear me brag on them, and then they want to be worthy of those brags, things like that. So founder-led marketing is something that we are seeing more of, and we are going to need to continue to see even more of it.
I agree with you on that. And so when you talk about the founder marketing, it's only good that we go into a little bit more about marketing, since you brought that up. And so when I think about the role of marketing plays, one thing that I see that podcasters struggle with is the automation. Okay. Once they finally do flip that switch and people start seeing their podcast and they want to ask them to be a guest. So what is one suggestion that you can give them that will help them with being able to, maybe one tool that can help them with being organized?
Being organized, I would say sidecoach.ai is a good one. Some people like motion apps. These are kind of like personal business coach sort of apps that are driven by AI. I like Sidecoach because it also goes, it goes off text messages. It sends me 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. And 6 a.m, it's like, hey, don't forget we got today. And then at night, it's, if I don't knock anything out, it's like, hey, you forgot to take care of this. And like, it almost becomes like somebody in your life who's like, hey, did you take care of that? Did you take care of that? So it's my AI work wife, I guess you could say. But that's probably 3x'd my personal output. And I gave it to one of my directors to try it out too. And it's really great. You can just go in and voice note the text back and be like, hey, tomorrow, make sure or hey, we need to start a new project. You ever just get that, you know what I'm talking about, that. And then you try to get in your notes, and by the time you get in your notes, you forget it. So I just pull up Sidecoach, text Sidecoach, do voice notes, just like, hey, we need to do this, and we need this report to do with this. And I'll just kind of all that stuff that's spidered out in my brain and get it in there. And then I can set my phone back in my pocket. And the next day I get, and it's all itemized and put in order and put on my list and taken care of. So you could just literally dump, and then it organizes. And I love that.
That is a fantastic tip, because as we grow, more people start to want to be a guest on your show, or maybe you get other inquiries about your show, and you can miss a lot of people without having a workable system. And you can't, at some point, you can't do everything one by one manually. You're going to have to get automation in some way, shape, or form. So that is indeed a good tip for them to be able to use. So you mentioned
I would
earlier.
I would also say real quick, like when you're talking about like managing your guests and get some sort of CRM. Get some, and there's cheap, there's free, there's probably a podcast based CRM, but get a CRM so that you're like, okay, these are my 25 dream guests, and I'm going to just keep dripping them like stuff to see if one of them will drop and pop. And then these are my 50 that I just are coming up. They fit my profile. So you can get that CRM to do those automations for you, because you can set up your whole cadence and be like, okay, when I enter them in, they're going to get a email that says, hey, an introduction. And then a week later, they're going to get an email with these 2 episodes. And then then you just create a cadence so that by the time you do come to them and say, hey, I'd love to have you on the show, they're like, yeah, but I've watched a couple of your episodes. I'd love to be on there. So it's just, again, and Pipedrive, all the CRMs out there now, they have those AI automations. You just put the person's name in and click what you want to happen, and then it just does all of that. Except for, I mean, it can call for you too if you want an AI fake voice, but I don't let that happen for me.
Well, you gave two great tips. You gave the tip on the coach and also the CRM automation, because you're going to have some sort of work flow, just in general, and if you are a business owner. So you brought it up when you were talking about another topic. However, I want to piggyback back to what the particular topic that you wanted to touch a little bit more on, which was, where do you think podcasting is going? So, Dennis, where do you think podcasting is going?
I think that podcasting is going to think about YouTube and its progression. I think we're going to see a similar arc. And what I mean by that is, remember the beginning of YouTube? The big videos were just homemade, grainy. You know, the first viral video is the fat guy in the Jedi outfit that he's like swinging the lightsaber and then he falls. And, you know, so like that was YouTube then. Look at YouTube now. It's YouTube TV with fully produced TV shows. It's YouTube where people are producing their own content for YouTube. Mr. Beast spends $20 million to $3+ million on one video for YouTube. So it has, the production value has gone up so much with YouTube, and I think it's going to be the same thing when it comes to podcasting. Because as time progresses, people are going to raise their level of expectation because the bar is going to get raised. A good podcast is no longer sitting around on a ratty couch in your garage with a couple buddies. A good podcast has a whole bunch of, you know what I mean? It has, you know, it's got a studio, it's got guests that people probably know of or at least respect their background. And so you think of just the slight growth of what has happened in podcasting in the last 5 years or so. And now all of a sudden, a lot of businesses are coming into it and saying, oh, well, let's get in on this thing. So the watermark is only going to go up. Here's what I tell attorneys. I'm like, listen, there are 16-year-old kids running around with 2 cameras out producing you. So you taking your iPhone or whatever and shooting some videos is fine for a season. But if you want to be seen as a serious company, a serious law firm, whether it's just you and, you know, a paralegal and an administrator, or just you or whatever, if you want to be seen as that, it's not going to be how nice of an entryway you have. It's going to be your media. It's going to be your podcast. It's going to be your YouTube podcast. It's going to be your social media presence. People don't 82% of people solely use the internet to find their attorney. So 80% of people are only seeing what is online when it comes to attorneys when they make their decision. They're not walking into the, entryway of an office and going, oh, wow, look at that mahogany desk and look at that, reproduction painting over there. And, oh, wow, look at the carpet's nice. They're not doing that. They're going to the website and saying, oh, wow, this is nice. Oh, wow, this is helpful. Oh, wow, this is, I'm learning here. Oh, wow, I think this person, now I kind of like them. Like, they're kind of down to earth and help me understand my problems. And so now let me verify trust, trust. Let me verify trust and meet with them and hire them. And so that's why we do it that way. That's the future, is production value, number one. Number two, I think entertainment. I think, and I like to use TV as the comparison. Think of the evolution of television. I don't know if you're familiar with Howdy Doody from back in the 50s, right? He's still like I'd probably ask some young people, what are you talking about? But, so Howdy Doody, 10-year-old kids used to watch Howdy Doody in the 50s. Black and white, on a string, guy standing there, hello, boys and girls. That's Mickey Mouse, sorry. I have tons of voices. I just don't know what they go to, sorry. So, and now, you think you could get a 10-year-old to sit for a half hour and watch a Howdy Doody show? Probably not. Now the cartoons and whatever they watch is just pew, 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 every 4 seconds, and that's the evolution that's happened. And I think it's going to be the same thing with podcasting. One of the things that we're doing, we've done our first episodes in production, and then we got to shoot the other 4. We're launching a show called Diem, Building Authority Through Media, and it's in the style of a 70s and 80s Saturday morning superhero cartoon. I'm actually Batman. So, and we bring on experts. Right now, we're traveling through the land of LinkedIn. Yes, or this first episode is we're fighting against Clout Chaser, and we're fighting against, I think it's like something about like being afraid to like kind of like lack of self-confidence. I don't remember what that monster was named. But anyway, like, so we're doing that, and we're doing it like speaking it that way. And then I have somebody who's learning AI, and the first episodes will actually be my character and then my guest character. We create a superhero character for each of them, and they'll be the ones talking on YouTube through the podcast with B-roll that's comic book. Because right now, I'm of the opinion every 3 months is equal to 5 years in the past of technological advances with AI. Because I remember when AI first came out, I was like, everybody, you better learn it. And then I kind of looked at it, and I was like, it just seems like a bunch of automations. I'm not really that impressed. And then like 3 months later, I went back and was like, oh, I see this now. And as I keep using and keep seeing it, I keep seeing it grow. So I'm hoping in around 6 months that we can then take all that show, put it into an AI system, put in the characters and the scripts, and it'll actually produce a straight 20-minute like action cartoon. So we'll actually have the podcast version and then the cartoon version. The podcast version, it's entertaining, it's fun, but you're learning a lot. You know, if LinkedIn is where you make a living, then, you know, I'm having like 4 people with anywhere from like 30,000, you know, LinkedIn to like 200,000 LinkedIn. And they're all like former lawyers who now full-time help other lawyers do LinkedIn. So, you know, we can come in and create that quality, you know, you've got to have that meat. I used this illustration yesterday. Like, it used to be with podcasting, if you could put some meat on the table, everybody's like, wow, that's just great content, great content. But here's the problem. Now everybody's putting good meat on the table. So if you imagine you got 3 T-bone steaks sitting in front of you, they're both sitting at 16 ounces, they're both trimmed nice, the marbling's great. What's going to make you decide between the 3 is probably how it's cooked and how it's seasoned. Mm-hmm. And so everyone's throwing raw meat onto the table and saying, what, you don't like it? But the people that actually take the time to season that steak and throw it on the grill and give it some love are going to receive love back in the atmosphere of podcasting. So I encourage people to be looking at what can I do to make my podcast different, not just in subject, but in the way that I actually deliver it to people. We're working on a show. We're trying to figure it out and coordinate it where it's like basically set up like a courthouse. We're going to have a judge, 3 attorneys will be jurors, and then we'll have people giving testimonies all in like, and now I'm seeing, because you can do it on Zoom, I'm hoping we can do it on StreamYard, but essentially coming in and creating this, it would be like almost like a people's court, but for attorneys and opportunities for them. So having a show about things that attorneys need, certainly been done, but actually watching a show that mirrors and like uses their language and has a judge who at the end, and then has the attorneys in the jurors box who give their opinions and has the testimonial from the experts, like it's a different way of presenting the same thing. And that's what I try to encourage people. And even internally, I'm like, guys, like I have a guy and he's like me, artistic, and he's like, oh, branding is like, you know, do what you're doing. But yeah, like we want to help with branding and really like having a show that makes an impact where people remember it. Because if you go, I listen to a business podcast, people are gonna be like, oh, if you're like, I listen to this business podcast, but the guy was like a superhero and he had a superhero, this lady on there. And it was really like, there was good stuff on there, but it was also kind of funny and kind of silly. And I really enjoyed it. You're probably going to ask the name of that podcast. You're going to be like, well, what was that? So that, and again, any spin that you can do with your network and the way that you deliver it in the future is going to give you an opportunity to put yourself in a place of being more successful than somebody with the same exact content.
I agree with you. At the end of the day, we're all just remanufacturing something that's already been done and adding a little bit more extra secret sauce to the
Exactly.
whatever it is, like I say, it's right in harmony with the scripture. There's not anything new up under the sun. It's just
Yep.
your twist on it. And just thinking about the world of the legal world in general, I really think it's very genius on how you are taking an industry that most people, from the consumer standpoint, you only go to a lawyer when you need help. It's not like if you hear somebody say they're a lawyer, like, oh, I'm a little nervous. Wait, what? A lawyer?
Right.
But making them more approachable, more personable, which means that, hey, they're going to get more inquisitive to learn more, to ask more questions, and that can create the relationship that they need in order to build more clientele. And also, I just see when you was describing it to me, I see that you're going to be doing some history. You're going to be making some more history, because now you're going to have children wanting to be a lawyer, because they're going to see all of those cartoons and be like, wait a minute, I want to be a lawyer.
Yeah. And I mean that I want to be in marketing, but yeah, I think that, there's that, because, the vast majority of eighth graders, you know what they want to be when they grow up?
In sports or famous?
Nope. They want to be an influencer. That's the number one desired position of junior high kids, children right now.
TikTok, go viral. That's the main thing. They want to go viral. They want to go viral. So the way that you're doing this, I feel like it's going to really shake everything up a bit, especially with helping attorneys get motivation to see other attorneys doing it. And maybe they know certain attorneys, and then they see them go from not doing much on social media to not having a podcast to now having one, and now producing this type of quality. And so they're going to say, go to the Legal Podcast Network. So
we do have that. I brought on 3 people this week that were basically, I handle the referral relationships and things like that. And 3 people this week that literally call up and they're like, hey, you're working with my buddy over in Michigan. He does what I do. We're friends. We've been friends since college. But man, I see your videos. I see this, I see that. 5 law firm marketing agencies that traditionally I would consider my competitor now have signed up to sign up their law firm clients with us. I get emails every day. Do you have this spot available? Because we do exclusivity. And so, and all it was us just put that content. And then all of a sudden, about 2 months ago, and we've been doing this a little over a year, but about 2 months ago, just, like I said, marketing agencies and other lawyers and lawyer groups and things like that just start out of the blue coming and emailing and calling and reaching out to us. And, I was just doing business stuff, and now I'm probably spending half my time in, relationships with marketing agencies and referring agencies. I'm spending half my time just working with the people through that.
Well, that is amazing. This is something that most people would have never thought about in this particular niche of podcasting, and thinking about providing a way for the attorneys to be able to have a place or a space for them. Because normally in this space of podcasting, we're reaching out to the lawyers to get things trademarked, get things copyrighted, and now they have their space, which I never really thought about. I mean, I have a friend that's a lawyer, and of course she's a podcaster with me as well, but I didn't think about building a network around that. And so I'm glad that you did, because of your expertise with already being with them for so long, for 25 years, and that they have a place. I can't wait till you launch the cartoons and everything like that. Yes, I'm an adult, but I still watch cartoons too.
Hey, I'm with you. And that's the other thing we do. We actually have right now 10 what we call sponsored shows. And this was another thing that I didn't anticipate happening. But I started having people who weren't lawyers, but they exclusively marketed to lawyers. And because we market in so many ways, we have 200,000 plus attorneys in our database. We have about 40,000 opted into our daily tips and tricks emails Monday through Friday. I just basically say, here's all these attorneys. Here's how we market to them. Here's how we would include you as part of that. And now I've got 10 companies that I never would have ever approached to become a client. And I want to get that to about 25, where we're working. And so attorneys will now come to the Legal Podcast Network, not to see if they want to buy from us, but to get information. We have shows from people who help attorneys on cameras, people who help attorneys with their finances, people who help attorneys with AI and hiring, people who help attorneys with marketing, people that, like literally that's, I just want a stable of shows where lawyers just, most of my podcasts I get off the Legal Podcast Network. Oh yeah, I watch this one and this one. Like that's like if I ever, get off my little island here and go to some sort of conference and I hear that, I'll die happy.
It's already happening. It's already happening. Just give it some more time. So tell us, where can we connect with you? Tell the viewing and listening audience.
Myself personally, probably easiest if you're on LinkedIn, Dennis Meador. You'll see a little Diem in there. My friends and family call me that. And I'm trying to kind of slowly get it into my business life because it's weird being like, especially like I have people that are friends who I hire and they're like, Dennis, Diem. They just get like, what do I call you? And I'm like, dude, just whatever. It doesn't matter. But so anyway, LinkedIn and then our website, thelegalpodcastnetwork.com. Or you could just put the Legal Podcast Network into YouTube and you can see, we've got about 125 attorneys that we do shows for every month, anywhere from 1 to 4 shows a piece. We've got thousands of videos, and these videos, most of our attorneys, their shows are for potential clients. They answer 7 to 10 questions like, what happens to a boat during a divorce, things like that, specific questions that their client might have. And so they show up, it's about 20 minutes, 7 to 10 questions. We give them the question, they talk, they answer, we move on to the next one. And then that just scales out for, like I said, with the GPTs, SEO as well, with the FAQ pages that we're creating. And that's just that aspect of it, not including the podcasting, video, and then, of course, on top of it, social media assets.
Awesome. So is there any last thoughts you would like to say before we go?
And I'm speaking to other entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs, podcasters, same thing in some cases.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I give, the right piece of advice. But here's the piece of advice I give to anybody who values their own time. Find out for yourself. You can look at what you get paid. You can look at whatever. But I have a dollar amount that I know I'm worth. And if there is a task in my life that is repetitive, that I don't enjoy, and I can pay somebody less than the dollars that I know I'm worth, then that's what I do. So, I don't cut my own hair. I didn't mow my lawn for many years. I have a housekeeper. We have people that, it's just like, I know what my dollar amount is and I don't spend my time doing anything else. Now, I said that to say this. In your podcast, yes, I know you're a control freak and it's your show and you don't want anybody to mess it up, but you need to be willing to outsource. You can hire people all over the world for $2, $3, $4 an hour to do the remedial consuming work. That if you looked at your workflow on your podcast or whatever, I guarantee you there are several steps that are taking you a significant amount of time that actually don't take a lot of intellectual energy. And if you find yourself doing that and you can pay somebody significantly less than what you're worth, then you've just freed up more time for you to act in what you're worth. Because every hour I spend doing a $10 an hour job, I'm actually stealing the rest of what I'm worth from myself. That's the way that I look at it. So if you're a busy entrepreneur, podcaster, whatever, find out what your time is worth. Don't be afraid to delegate or hire a VA and get people to do the things that take up your time but don't take high skill, so that you can do the things that only you can do. And that's what I tell my team. If everybody just does what only they can do, we will be wildly successful. But when my client success guy who makes X amount of dollars is spending 4 hours on a spreadsheet, I'm not happy about that. He should have given that to one of the VAs to handle it. So that's the piece of advice I would give. Know your worth and never shortchange yourself.
Now you was questioning what piece of advice, but you hit it. That was literally excellent, because no matter who you are, you can pull from that and apply it to your life. personal and business life, to be honest with you. So I would like to thank you so much for being a featured guest. You guys make sure to go check out the Legal Podcast Network on today, because I know you have those burning questions that you would like to know from a lawyer, and also seeing the lawyers do their thing. Okay, make sure to keep your eyes in. And right now, like I said before, Dennis, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. You guys, he explained to us how to build authority, attract high value clients through podcasting with legal marketing secrets. Yes, did you hear those secrets? I heard those secrets. If you didn't hear them, that's why you need to watch it on the replay. Okay, because he gave so many good gems. Make sure to check him out on today. And for those of you who are watching right now on YouTube or any of the TV streaming apps, make sure to download our app. Go ahead, take out your phone, scan me. Go ahead. Ooh, it won't hurt. Go ahead, scan me right now so that you can download and you can watch our content for absolutely free. Because just like Dennis said, we believe in what we call edutainment. Yes, we want to educate you and entertain you. So go ahead and get entertained and educated at the exact same time. And it's only going to take up a moment of your time by just scanning this QR code and downloading the app. You can do it on your iOS phone or your Google Play, or you can watch it on television or social media, whichever one that you prefer. Thank you so much for being here on today, watching us. Please make sure that you tune in, same time, same place next week. You guys have a great, amazing rest of your day. Bye. Have you heard about Book Authority's best new podcasting book winner, which is Dr. Tina J. Ramsey, for her book, The Power of Podcasting, Unlocking Tips and Strategies for Podcasting Success. This book is your podcasting coach in a book. She is sharing so many strategies. This book reached #1 twice on Amazon for new release and best-selling book. So go ahead to CTRMediaNetwork.com to purchase your copy today, or simply place your order on Amazon.com today and unleash the power of podcasting. CTR Media Network is now accepting new podcasters to join our growing network that's reaching 350 million global listeners. Have you heard? CTR Media Network offers podcast production, podcast training, distribution, and product placement. Book us for your next event or schedule an interview with CTR Media Network podcasters today. To learn more, go to ctrmedianetwork.com.